Dear students, welcome and thank you for tuning in to another biomechanics video with me, Dr. Lyle Zubi. I'm still creating the series of videos about the biomechanics of human bone growth and development. And in this video, I'll be talking about what are the processes involved in the normal growth and maturation of bone. I will be talking about two growth processes. One is the growth in length and the other one is growth in circumference. From the schematic that you're seeing to the right here, we are showing the femur. And this is schematic representation of the femur. This is the proximal epiphysis, and this is the diaphysis, and this is the distal epiphysis, where this is the knee and that's the hip. And if you look at this schematic, we have something called here the epiphyseal plate, and this plate here, this area is actually where the growth of bone is taking place. So the epiphysis and the epiphyseal plates are the growth centers where new bone cells are produced until they close during adolescence or early adulthood. We have two plates, one in the proximal epiphysis and the other one in the distal epiphysis. This is another schematic here that shows the four zones, the main four zones in the epiphyseal plates. The one at the top, this is the resting cartilage, and cartilage is a connective tissue where we have a lot of collagen there. And then the second zone, we have the zone of the proliferating cartilage, where we have the chondrocytes. And the chondrocytes is a type of cells in the bone. And those cells actually, they started from mesenchymal stem cell lineage, and then they commit to become chondrocytes. And the main function or protein that the chondrocytes are secreting is cartilage, which is mainly collagen. So here in this zone, we have a lot of cells that are proliferating and multiplying in numbers. And then below this zone, we have the zone of hypertrophic cartilage, where we have cartilage that they're very big in size and they are almost going to be dying. And where we have other types of cells like called osteoblasts, where they start depositing calcium minerals or calcium salts like calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate in order to calcify the cartilage, and that's the region at the bottom here where we say we have calcified cartilage. And as the proliferation takes place and the cartilage is growing in number and in size, it is the length of this femur is actually getting larger and larger and longer. And in this part here at the bottom, we have two types of cells that they are actually active. We have osteoblast and osteoclast. The osteoclast is bone resorbing cells where they are multinuclei, huge cells that they secrete acids to dissolve calcified cartilage and then allow for the osteoclast, which are bone depositing cells, to come in and start depositing hydroxyapatite or calcium phosphate salts to have the new bony region of our long bone. And that's exactly how it's happening. This process is a representation or resemblance of something called endochondral ossification. And this is one of the parts or the types of bone formation in the body. The other type or process is called intramembranous ossification, and it takes place in the skull, where we don't have room for growth and enlargement of the tissue. This process, the endochondral ossification, is actually mainly to elongate and enlarge the long bone. And this is how our long bone grow in length in the epiphyseal plates. Now I'm going to move to describe how do bones grow in circumference. Growing in circumference is a process that is taking place in a part of the bone or the tissue. The bone tissue is called the periosteum, and this part is a covering sheet on the long bone. That's called the periosteum. This is blue part of the schematic, and it is a double-layered membrane covering the bone and all bones in the body, and it builds concentric layers of new bone tissue on top of existing bone along the circumference. And then that's how we are getting larger and larger in the diameter of the bone because of the periosteum. And there were a lot of studies actually. If we remove the periosteum layer or remove the periosteum tissue, bony tissue, the bone growth will stop. And this is also a big source of mesenchymal stem cells, and that's important when we have bone fracture. Bone fractures where the periosteum cells and the tissue there is involved in endochondral ossification in order to allow more cells to proliferate and more chondrocytes cells to deposit cartilage, and then we have calcification of the cartilage through the osteoclast, and there is a balance between the osteoblast and the osteoclast. And if you look at the schematic to the left here, we have two types of important specialized cells in bone. Called one of the first one is called the osteoblast, which is bone lining cells. So these cells, they're single nuclei cells, and they are aligned in one line, and they start secreting. The red region here is new bone, hydroxyapatite or calcium phosphate, calcium salt. When they are get buried inside the bone, because more other line of cells is depositing bone, they become osteocytes. And these cells, they have the dendrites to communicate with neighboring osteocytes to stay alive and to characterize the bone as live bone. And then we have, as I mentioned before, multinuclei, huge, large, big cells. They're called the osteoclast cells, and they secrete acids and proteases in order to dissolve the bone. And there is a balance between the osteoclast and the osteoblast in order to continuously have new bone formed or bone resorbed based on the loads. So the locations of the bone on the bone that we have a lot of load, we would like to deposit more bone, and the places that we don't have load on the bone, the osteoclasts start acting to resorb the calcium salts to optimize its resource, the body, so that the body optimizes the resources and use it in a different place. A very important condition where we have imbalance between the osteoblast and the osteoclast functions is when subjects have osteoporosis. So one of the characteristics of osteoporosis is the higher activity of osteoclasts, where they dissolve the bone, and that's why we have weaker bone, because of the osteoclast activity in people who are suffering or experiencing osteoporosis. Hopefully this is helpful in understanding how bone grow in length and in circumference. We have two different locations of bone. The first one was the epiphyseal plate, and then we have the periosteum, and we have a different players or cell types that they are involved in this bone growth and development processes. Thank you for watching. Until the next video. Bye.